Well, hello.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for sticking around.
The good news is that we are able to devote one slide to each one of you. So thank you for staying. Today, we are going to talk about a font called Futura. Can I see a show of hands? Who have ever heard about a typeface called Futura?
Or used it?
Used it?
Okay, cool.
Okay, so this will make things faster. So when I was in graphic design school, they taught me something like this. It's a font classification system. Basically, it mixes historic data and formal data for us to understand how typography works, right? And when it comes to sans-serif, and when it comes to geometric sans-serif, the single exclusive example of a geometric sans-serif is always Futura. But to understand how this works and why it's so iconic, we need to go back like 100 years earlier, right?
Yeah, early 20th century. I mean, Futura really created a genre of geometric sans.
And this is in the, let's say, before Futura, Modernism was brewing. And it's partly a reaction to this very decorative Art Nouveau and ornated graphics. Slowly but surely, in Germany and Switzerland, some of these examples, like Peter Behrens or the, how do you pronounce? Behrens, sorry. So the Bauhaus, the new typography, these examples were making things more modern, simpler, and devoted of any ornamentation. And when we see the words of Paul Renner, the creator of Futura, he says that a typeface in this time, in this particular time, it needed to be devoted of any hint of the human hand. So basically needs to avoid any hint of calligraphy.
Yeah, he wanted to create something that is really of the time. And when you think back, it was a time where there was a lot of excitement about technology, about, in a way, industrial mechanizations. Yeah, so he wanted to delete any kind of fuss and ornament. And, no? All right. So Futura originated in, well, his first ideas was in 24, in a way as a commission by a publisher, Hegner, and nothing really came out of it. So a few years later, well, actually no, pretty much just a few months later, he sent it off to Bauertypes in Frankfurt in Germany, where his pupil was art director. And there, Hartmann, the director of Bauer, plus Heinrich Jost, they found it amazing. No, they really saw potential in this idea, in this drawing. So here's the Frankfurt and Hartmann. But back then, you know, type was still a very industrial process. So you would kind of create a font for specific sizes. So that's why different punches, different levels of quality. So beneath this kind of, yeah, like geometric facade, ultimately Futura became a proper working typeface with the help of Bauer and Hartmann.
Yeah, it wasn't alone. Let's say there were many efforts trying to achieve this geometric modernist typeface. This is the drawing from Herbert Bayer, or this made it into a typeface called Cabell. And when you look at them, they all seem quite rough on the edges. They don't quite seem typographic enough. And I think that Renner himself tells us why is that. Here, when he says vulgarization, he's likely referring to the oversimplification of form. So when you look at the drawings that Renner did for Futura, you will see that there is nothing here that you can really build with a compass and a ruler. Nothing.
Yeah, there are a lot of optical adjustments. So we, as type designers, if we want to create something geometric, actually it's not geometric at all. You have to deal with little final details to make it appear as a geometric shape, and that's what they already understood. And in a way, that's why Futura is still such an popular and still, in a way, contemporary typeface. So they created these beautiful specimens back then, and what was quite a surprise for us is that it works beautifully in small text. And okay, the typesetting was also fantastic. It was absolutely gorgeous. So here you see that was the slogan, Futura, die Schrift unserer Zeit. So the Futura, the typeface of our time. That was the main kind of slogan.
And I think that the building of Futura's success, it was because it had these ideas, these modernist ideas, this idea of simplification, but it's also typographically sound, and it made it into lots of posters, brands, advertising campaigns that we have all seen. When you compare it to other kinds of sans-serifs that are a bit newer, like Soleil or Avenir or Gotham, you will see that the proportions in Futura are quite different. The straight letters are very narrow and the round letters are very wide, at least in the light way. And as soon as you move to the bold way, the typeface blows out of proportion and it starts communicating with the reader in a different tone and volume.
So it has these little quirks, yeah, that make it, personal, that give it a bit more personality. And it's the only typeface that basically made it to the moon, as some of you might know. It was the brand font for the
Apollo mission. And one thing that is interesting is that we came in peace for all mankind, but it's not quite actually true, because Futura could only cover certain languages. Most of the Americas, most of Europe, Australia, and that's it.
So only Latin, basically, yeah. And in a way, that's where we come in. So yeah, TypeTogether, we shaped it about 20 years ago, just us two. And from the start is a very collaborative endeavor. Kind of collaboration really is our backbone. We also have educational incentives. This is a scholarship program. We collaborate with different types of artists, of different design disciplines. This was a really nice project with Brazilian artisans. We publish books about typography, type design, educational. And our focus really shifted towards multiscript type design and typography. So we have a whole bunch of typefaces that cover a lot of different writing systems. Also because our team kind of grew from us two to now I think we are 20, very much spread around the globe. We don't have a nice office like perhaps some of you have.
Yes. And really it was a great opportunity to collaborate with our friends at Bauer into making this new Futura that could actually speak more languages and be used as an example in different parts of the world.
So it was about 2 years ago where we thought, okay, this is a wonderful opportunity to bring Futura, the original concept of Renner, into the new age and to cover pretty much 90% of the world population. But how to go about this? How do you translate this concept, this idea of simplicity into other scripts? And actually first we needed to go back to the original drawings, have a look at archives, find out what Renner's ultimate thing was, because although, you know, as designers we were exposed to Futura perhaps, we figured that we don't quite know it.
Right, and when you start looking at it closely, you will realize it is carefully inconsistent. The cuts, sometimes vertical, sometimes slanted, sometimes horizontal. In some weights is slanted, but then suddenly in the last weight is horizontal. You have an apex that is pointy for 4 weights, but then it becomes flat. So for all of you who have been using typography for a while, you know that this is not quite the norm. And more importantly, when you look at the punches in 60 points and in 8 points, the lightweight is quite different, right? So when we look at the digital versions that are the most important ones, that is the ND version and the Futura now, and we compare it with the last 2 columns, those are the 1927 punches, you will realize there is a gap. There is a weight that no one ever digitized. So this is by itself reason enough to redo Futura, but also to bring it into the 21st century in terms of typographic niceties and typesetting, like a typesetting tool, let's say, with small caps.
We added various features like small caps, different numerals, and arrows. And of course, given today's time, also a variable font with 2 axes, so the classic kind of going into a weight. But we also figured, we saw in the original drawings that the text sizes, they have, of course, slightly different horizontal proportions and much more wider spacing, and the extenders are actually aligned, not like in the display where they are pretty tall. So we were shaping all of this, and then, okay, how do you take this into very, very different writing systems with very different historical backgrounds, cultural backgrounds?
The samples had to come from different places because Modernism is a Western movement, let's say. So it was either lettering from book covers,
posters,
street, or even old typefaces.
Old typefaces. Stone carving or covers. What was important though is that it's not about kind of only taking the shape, the form, but really the underlying concept of Renner, of shape, going into the essence, trying to find and revealing the essence of the letters of the writing system, which in some cases they are not necessarily letters.
And I think that what is important to understand here is that the idea that Futura is geometric is a descriptor, but what Renner was trying to do is to have certain economy of resources to make sure that this was a simplified version of letters.
And he was very clear on that he wanted to create a text phase, which for me it was quite a surprise, because in our general environment you see it used in big. So we put together this team of about 40 or so designers and consultants, local designers for each group, and looking at how to translate this concept in perhaps not such a obvious way, like here the Greek, although some scripts like Greek or Cyrillic, they lend themselves a little bit easier because they have roots, they have connections to the Latin.
Yes, in some cases, certain letters could inform other designs. These are the alphabetic scripts, Cyrillic, Georgian, Armenian, and Greek. And in any case, what we are trying to achieve is the same color, the same curve velocity, the same intention of the drawing, the same connections, the same optical corrections as well, right?
Yes, so you kind of look for places of where you can, the stroke logic is the same in these different scripts. And some, are a little bit more tricky, and like with Khmer, this is Khmer, there is no model for geometric, simplified. Khmer is usually much more ornate. So that was very interesting also for the designers themselves, because for pretty much all of them, it was, completely new thing. So it was a challenge for them to understand how to approach that. And there were a lot of discussions. And then the southeastern scripts, they need to, of course, work with each other. They come from a similar root. So you have to compare them. You have to make sure that it works.
Certain scripts are quite different to the Latin, like a connected script like the Arabic, where the weight happens on the baseline. So here as well, even though the writing systems, they don't resemble one another in any way, you can still find that the intention of the drawing is the same.
And of course, some details, you look at it. And then the color, the typographic color, of course, is very important to make it even in scripts where Hebrew is very open. It has a lot of white space, a lot of counter space. When you then compare it to set it, because that's the thing about multiscript design, typography, you expect them to work on the same level. So you have to, it's a lot of backwards and forwards. I mean, type design is a very iterative process.
Certain scripts, they lend themselves to geometry a bit better. So drawing them, it's not that it wasn't challenging, but let's say it was a bit more straightforward in the sense that we didn't need inventing the wheel, right?
Yeah, or there would be perhaps a few more references from lettering or even design. I think the Asian scripts, so we have currently Korean and Chinese, they have a very long tradition, even kind of this simplified, more geometric, but we came across this other challenge of, if you remember, the different cuts, it's very hard to translate that into 20,000 symbols, so you have to compromise sometimes.
So in the end, we are releasing 23 scripts in 6 ways. Many of them have obliques. This, as Vic pointed out, should give coverage for about 90% of the world's population, so we're very happy about this. And this is how it looks.
Little movie.
Yes. Come on.
So because it is a very big project, we are doing it in 2 stages. And there's a code. You can get early beta access, sign up.
This is totally free. You
free.
Sign up for free.
There's no
It's our premier service. So with that, in June, the beta fonts will be published. So you can give it a spin and actually give us a bit of feedback.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.